Welcome to MSP Voice, the weekly show for MSPs by MSPs. Brought to you by MSP 360, the #1 cross-platform cloud backup. Learn more at msp360.com. This is MSP Voice. Hello and welcome to MSP Voice. This is episode number 770. Also the last episode for 2019, as next 2 weeks are holidays. They'll be back in 2020 in the new year with fresh new episodes. Today, I am very pleased to be joined by Nigel Moore. He is now with the Tech Tribe, but he's owned an MSP for a number of years. He talks a lot about his experiences. He's written a book that's in the show notes called Package Price Profit. Be sure to check that out. It's available on Amazon. But he shares just a lot of great information. Fun interview. He's Australian, so he's got a lot of great energy. So definitely stick around for the interview. Before we get to that, we've got some housekeeping. MSPvoice.com is your source for all things MSP Voice. We have webinars coming up in the new year. So I talked about one last week. This week we've got announcement for another one with Paul Green, MSP Marketing Edge. That will be on January 22nd. So be sure to check that out on mspvoice.com. All of our past episodes, and also MSP webinar number 19 on January 15th with Envirosoft. Another great one that I'm looking forward to. So a couple of things coming up there. Also, if you want to be a guest, just hit the link, be the next guest, register, and I will get you on here and we'll have a great conversation. Another little bit of housekeeping thing is it's happening today, Wednesday, December 18th at 2 p.m. Eastern. But if you're listening and you want to join in on it here in the morning, check it out. We're doing a joint webinar with MSPsoft about ransomware, what to do if disaster strikes. This is going to be a fun one. We did a kind of a pre-call about it today. So really excited about it. There's going to be a lot of Q&A, a lot of time for Q&A. So if you have questions for Fabian Wosar, who is one of the leading malware crackers, so to speak, in terms of cracking malware, you definitely want to join this webinar. So hit that up and we'll get you registered. And then finally, in the news, just really one that just really stuck out at me today. It's on Krebs on Security, but ransomware gangs are now outing victim businesses that don't pay up. And what does that mean? It means that at least one group of bad actors has set up a website where they are now listing customers that they have infected with their ransomware and even posting data from those customers. This is kind of a new tactic, and they're doing this for ones that don't pay the ransomware. And it's scary, right? Because not only now are they infecting you or your customers with malware, they can actually also go in and grab the data as part of that and hold it hostage, not just to unlock it, but to say, hey, if you don't pay us, we're going to release this information on the web, which could obviously contain a lot of sensitive information. So this is the group that's doing it now is Maze. I'm sure Fabian will be talking about that in the webinar later today. So might want to tune in for that, or even on the recording if you can't join live. So that's all I've got today. I don't mean it for it to be all scary. And the good news is this interview is a lot of fun. We talk a lot, we laugh a lot. So stick around for that, and we'll talk to you in 2020. Thank you very much. Hello and welcome to MSP Voice. Today I am pleased to be joined by Nigel Moore, who comes to us from down under in Sydney, or the Sydney area. Nigel, how you doing?
G'day. I always start off these things by saying g'day. I've got to know my place in this world. I am doing very well, thank you. It is morning here, so I am just kickstarting my day.
Good. Yeah. Well, it's not too early though. It's 9 a.m. So
it is 9 a.m. So I've already had an hour and a half call this morning, and I'm on to my second one of the day already.
So you've had, just from reading the descriptions that I found of you before we joined this call, you've had an interesting journey in this MSP space. It appears. So why don't you kind of lead us through how you got into this business?
So I started off, I was poached into an MSP, or back then it wasn't an MSP, it was just an IT support company, back in about 2002, 2003. And I ended up working my way through that business and becoming the general manager of it. And in about 2007, through this crazy, strange turn of events, probably an entire podcast episode in that one, I ended up owning my own MSP one Monday morning and having a little book of clients to get started with. And so that kicked me off into the journey of having my own business and my own MSP. And then I had to figure out what the heck to do. How do you run one of these things? There was no instruction manual for it. So I had to get started on that journey of making a million mistakes and figuring out what to do and what not to do.
So you piqued my interest. I don't, how does one wake up Monday morning owning an MSP?
When the previous one disintegrates, the previous ownership or leadership or whatnot, and disintegrates, and most of the clients end up ringing you on the Monday morning and saying, hey, we want to work with you now. And, and so that was the way it started back then.
Gotcha. Yeah, because people like to work with people at the end of the day.
Correct. Yeah.
And they probably
and in that business, the owner of the business hadn't had relationship with those clients for the better part of a good couple of years, and I have been running it. And then he was kind of slowly going down this, as I said, story for another day, but a severe mental health issue, and kind of abusing some of us as as staff, and so I went down this crazy world, and ended up in a whole world. There was a pile of us that ended up in a world of pain out of that, and we came out relatively unscathed a year or so later, but it took us some time to get through that. And then, as I said, out of it, I had this pile of clients sitting on my lap that all wanted to work with me, and I had the relationship with them, and that birthed the start of my MSP, or my IT company back then, because we weren't doing managed services back in 07. We took me about a year or so to get started on the recurring income in there as well, and to figure out how to start to roll that stuff out.
Yeah, so it's basically what we call break fix.
Correct. It was a break fix company when I started. Yeah.
Okay, and then you transitioned into the monthly and have everyone on contract, and then you're all good. So, obviously trial and error is a big part of it. And I know that you've shared some of your experiences in some other podcasts, and you've also written a book with some tips and tricks for other MSPs.
I have.
Tell me about the book.
This bad boy here, Package Price Profit. And so being in the MSP coaching space, the number one question that I get asked is, how the heck do I price and package my plans? And I think I've been asked that question probably 300 times. And instead of answering it the same way each time, now I can just say, go read that.
Okay.
And so that's what I wrote that one about is over the years, I've tried a million different ways to price and package plans, from per user, per device, hybrid, per experience, all sorts of different things. Putting a finger in the wind in the air and seeing which way the wind is going. And I've learned that there's a pile of things that you should do, and there's a pile of things that you shouldn't do.
Okay.
And but there is no, unfortunately, hard and fast, clear answer as to the way that every MSP should operate their plans. Everyone's got to figure out what works for them. And so what I've put in this book is tips and tricks to help you figure out, or the listener to figure out what is going to work for them, and coupled it with all of the learnings that I've had around different areas where I've gone and tried something and it didn't work for whatever reason.
Okay.
And so it's based around that. An easy way to answer the questions that I get asked without me having to go deep into them now. I just say, go read the book.
And I will include a link to it in the show notes. So if you're listening or watching on YouTube, check the show notes for that. It's on Amazon. It's very reasonably priced. So
it is. This is true.
It's not going to break the bank.
I make 20 cents commission, I think, per sale.
It's not going to break the bank, and it's not going to make you rich. But hey, at least
it will make you rich.
Oh, well, it won't make you rich.
Oh no, it won't make me rich. It won't. That's true. The book sales won't.
Yeah. So you talk about pricing and packaging. What about when you were running your MSP? What about advertising? I know that's one, and marketing. That's one of the marketing things.
That's the second question. Second most common question I get asked is, how the heck do I find new clients? And that is the second book that is on the way.
Okay.
So you'll have to wait until I finish it. Kidding. Marketing is one of the toughest parts in our space as well, because we don't have a traditional buyer journey like an e-commerce store or anything like that does, where people are buying pretty quickly. We have this big, long sales cycle in the MSP space, which means you've got to build relationships. And those relationships to go from meeting someone to closing them as a managed service deal can sometimes take 6, 8, 12, 24, 36 months. And during that time, you can have 15, 20, 30, 40 different touch points to get that client. And so our journey through this managed service marketing world is a long one. However, on the flip side, that might make it tough up front, but what it does is it gives you this double-edged sword, because on the other side, it means that once you do get a client, you typically can keep them for a very, 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 very long time. And once you've done that hard work to get a client in through whatever marketing methods you use, then you've got profits hopefully for a very long time. And that means that if you've got access to the right amount of capital, you can afford to go and spend a lot in your marketing endeavors to get a client, because a client typically has, over the life of 2-3 years or 4 years with you, is typically going to be spending tens of thousands of dollars, if not more, in gross margin with you. Yeah. So if you've got that capital to go and spend $2,000 or $3,000 to acquire that client, knowing that you're going to get it paid back off in 2 or 3 months, and then the rest is profit from then onwards, it's such a great sales cycle as well. It's tough and daunting to know that you've got this big, long thing there, but it's also great to know that you can spend a fair bit of money. You can be a little bit creative in it as well.
Yeah, I mean, but not everyone has access to that capital either. So
this is true.
You know,
so you're going to start with the basics somewhere, and that's that creativity there. And there's lots of different methods out there that work in the MSP space. There's some that don't as well. You typically can't advertise on Facebook saying, "Hey, come and try my IT support." That stuff just doesn't work. But you can advertise. You can retarget on Facebook, but you can also advertise different types of, maybe a cybersecurity audit for law firms in the Dallas area or whatever on Facebook, something very targeted like that. Yeah. And, but in terms of, if you are just starting out in the MSP space and you've got no clients whatsoever, and you've only got a very small network, the only thing that you've got on your side is time there. You don't have access to that capital, and that makes it hard. And so some of the things you can and should be doing is going out and building your network. And that does take time, but going out and building your network of obviously of prospects, people that might be able to become clients of yours. And you can do that at industry events and associations and workshops and meetups and all sorts of that. But one of my favorite ones is to go out and build relationships with people who allow you to have a one-to-many relationship with your clients. Okay. And what I mean by that is, in our particular MSP, before I had marketing budget that was big, I used to go and look across my client base, and I go, okay, we've got this client over here works with this line of business vendor, and we actually really enjoy working with them, which sometimes can be a bit hard to, you know what it's like, most line of business vendors sometimes can be tough to work with. Yeah. But I'd look around and I go, these guys are good. My guys like working with them, or I like working with them. And I get on the phone and I say, hey, love what we're doing, working with you guys over at so-and-so client. Can I take you out to lunch and see whether there's ways we might be able to help each other out a little bit more? Yeah. And I go out and take them out to lunch, and we just talk about business and talk about the mutual client or two that we had, and then and whatnot. But what always happened out of them was, the next time they are out working with one of their clients, installing their POS software or installing their line of business app or whatever it happened to be, and they were fighting with the client's current IT company, they'd go, you guys are mad. Go and talk to Nigel. They're so much easier to deal with, this IT company. And I built, literally just taking a few people out to lunches and dinners and being intentional around, take them out to a really nice place, not McDonald's, but take them out to a nice place. And we got multi-six figures worth of income added to our business just by referrals that just kept piling in. Okay. And the reason I called it one to many is that I'm building I'm the one person in that mix, and I'm building a relationship with many vendor partners who then have many clients underneath them that can come and that can be referred to us. And so that's one of the little tricky ones that I don't mind using. And I love seeing MSPs use it, because it's quite easy to go and build those relationships with vendors. And we shouldn't be having these big arguments with our line of business vendors out there. Most of them, I'm not going to say all of them, because there is some horrible ones out there, but most of them are trying to do their best, and we're trying to do our best. And if you can build an awesome relationship with them, they will go and sing your praises from the heavens out there in front of their clients. Yeah. And the worst thing I've seen in those types of things is the finger pointing. Right. Yes. When it's, it's the vendor's fault. No, it's the IT service's fault. You know, and everybody's pointing their finger at somebody else, and no one's working together on trying to come up with a resolution for what the problem actually is. So 100%. And clients see that, and vendors see that, and the end users see that, and it just brings this entire negative energies into your agreements. And if you can take a step above that, and you come into these situations and coach and mentor your team to come into these situations as just someone that's here to help. And sure, some people will come in, and some vendors will come in and they've got these big egos and they've got to prove something to you and whatnot. But quite often, if you come in from a different perspective and come in from a serving and supporting perspective, you can disarm those egos pretty quickly in that mix. And you can come in and you can make these relationships work fairly easily in there with just a little bit of just throwing that ego out the door. It's horrible.
So in terms of, being an MSP, what was the best part for you? I mean, obviously you started, then you kind of inherited, and were thrown into it, but then you were very successful as running it as an MSP. What was your favorite thing about being an MSP?
Good question. So like most MSP business owners, I suspect, I love technology. I'm a geek at heart, so I love seeing technology, but I also love helping people. And in my first stages of my MSP, that started off with helping our clients. So I was always out there going, look at this is going to do this, and this is going to create that, and you're going to be able to do all this awesome stuff. And I loved it. I used to get high on that kind of stuff. And then over time, as I started stepping back from any client interactions, that started becoming that I'm helping my team. And so again, I still had that, we got all this great technology to play with and whatnot, but I ended up being the mentor and the coach to my team to help grow them up and to help them go through their career. And so for me, I think the best parts of it was that, seeing clients grow through their journeys. I had some clients grow from 20 staff to 600 staff through there, and we supported them the entire way. And then we had some people on our team grow from just a level 1 tech all the way up to service management kind of material. And I loved seeing that process as well. My other big love in there was systems. I'm a massive systems guy. I love them. SOPs and building back-end operations. And you might find it, a lot of people find it boring and tough and tedious to dive into, but I love being able to see a business unit or a part of our business or a department of our business or a process in our business and just strategize how the heck can we break that down into a repeatable process and then turn that into an SOP so that then we can really work on making it an awesome process, not just a good process in our business. And I love that side of things as well. There's a few things in there I used to love a lot.
Well, that's what you loved. What didn't you like?
It's when you're in a business, and this is my personal philosophy, it might not be for everybody, but when you've been in a business space for 15 odd years, you can kind of fall out of love with doing it. And so I got to the point where, whilst I loved the team parts and whatnot, I got to this point in the MSP where we're starting to pseudo coach a few other MSPs on the side. And I really loved that process. I kind of went, man, this is awesome. I'm loving this new challenge and these new things. And whilst I haven't conquered everything in the MSP space, I don't have a $10 million MSP, but I have seen and done a fair bit in our space up until that point. So I kind of fell out of real love with the thing. And so that was kind of the parts of, or the reasons why I ended up transitioning out of that business. In terms of the day-to-day of what I didn't love inside the MSP, it's you go through this journey, right? So it's different at every stage. In the beginning of my journey, I used to love solving printer problems. I used to love diving in and digging in some sort of masochistic way. Exactly right. But then as you grow through this journey, those things become crazy to you. And you just go, I just don't ever want to hear another printer outage again. And you go through all of these different stages. And at one stage, I used to love troubleshooting small business issues in our business, like little tweaks here to our business model or our SOPs and whatnot. And then as you do a few of them, I then lost the love of doing them and got frustrated with doing them. And you just work your way up. And so to me, there was, at any one stage, there's things I loved and there's things I didn't enjoy. And I always just looked to automate the crap out of the things I didn't enjoy or delegate them off to somebody else as I went through that journey. And that was helpful because that's what helped us grow. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. And one of the other things is, at least here in the US, and I'm sure it's similar there, is the idea of community around MSPs, is that MSPs are willing to help each other out, share experiences. That's why this podcast, that's why I do this, is to, talk to MSPs and, hey, share it out and have others listen to it, maybe gain some insight. So what are what are your areas for community? What's your kind of, your hangout, so to speak, or your go-tos for the MSP?
Well, my community, just to rewind a little bit there, my community process started off like that, where you talk about we're very incredibly giving in it. When I kicked off back in whatever it was, 2007, 2008, I was completely all alone. I didn't know a single other MSP out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I found this little industry association that we had, and I went along to an event, and I found that there was about 30 other people in the room at a Microsoft building. And these were all my competitors. You call them competitors back then. I don't call them competitors now. They're your peers. They're your co-opetition. And I was talking to one of them in there about managed service agreement plans. And he goes, "Oh, what's your email address? I'll just send you mine." And I went, "Huh? You're my competition and you're going to send me your managed service agreement template? Like, what is this?" And that opened my entire eyes to this world of this community in our space. And, and it kicked me off on a journey of going and joining a few awesome communities around the world.
Okay.
And ultimately has led me to then go and create what we have now. Our tribe is a community of MSPs all around the world.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love about it is that it comes back to those core values of we love technology and we love serving people and we love helping people. And we do that. Most MSPs do that at the detriment nearly of their own business and their own profits. Is that we would prefer to be out there helping our peers and helping our, what you would call competition out there, than sometimes we would be making ourselves more dollars in the bank. And I love that about our business, but I also think some of us need a little bit of balance in there as well. I think some people get too far in there. You got to make money, but I also love the giving community side of what we've got in our space.
Great.
It is not very common among a lot of other industries. I obviously work in the coaching space now, and I've got some friends in other industries, and I've got one in the hairdressing space. And you'd think that this one, they would be very open to talking because they're location dependent, right? Like you don't care whether someone 3 towns away is going to do anything. But he said that these guys struggled to be in a room together. All of them, the whole industry in where he operates struggle to be in a room together, even if they're not in the same geographical location as these competition. And I think it comes a little bit from the scarcity mindset that people have in different industries. I don't believe our industry, because we see this vision of future and technology and all this coolness, is we just don't have that deep scarcity mindset that a lot of industries do have. And that pulls them back from having those awesome giving communities that we've got.
Yeah, it's interesting. But I'll have to ask some of my friends about the hairdresser part. So.
I found it crazy. And he's a coach. He's got hundreds of them, and he said it's just to get them in the same room and sharing stories and helping each other out. It's just he's found that incredibly hard. Which
the wigs fly, huh?
Yeah, exactly right. The sharp scissors come out. And,
yes.
Yeah.
So you mentioned something just a little bit ago about technology and the advancement and the excitement of particularly in this space, but just technology in general. Yeah. And what are some of the technologies, whether it's work related or not, that have you most excited? What are you most excited about, either current or on the horizon?
Oh, the big one that has me most excited is the whole idea and concept of the brain dock from Elon Musk. And I'm not sure whether you know too much or you've read too much about that, but it's Elon's obviously, he's created these crazy cars and he's flying people to Mars, but his ultimate goal is not that. His ultimate goal is this brain dock machine that he wants to build, which is essentially the interface between the human brain and computers. Okay. And we're starting to see the beginnings of that now, where you can have artificial limbs that are controlled by brainwaves and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But his ultimate goal is far deeper than that. And if you might have heard of the term the Singularity, which is the time when human minds and brain and computers get to the point where they're ubiquitous, where the processing power and the connectivity between the two is on par. And that is, in terms of when that's supposed to happen, that is currently slated for 2035, which is not very far away. No, it's not. It used to be 2045, but they've just pulled it back a decade, thinking it's going to happen around 2035. Okay. And that's where these technologies like these brain docks and whatnot start to come into play around. We would assume, obviously none of us can predict the future, but just judging by past trends and processing power and where things are going that's where it's going to be. And that excites the living crap out of me, but that's kind of 10, 15, 20 years into the future. And it excites us. And I think it also scares the crap out of us. It's like, what, a little bit. what can happen at that point in time? And I'm a believer that us as a human race, we are a smart bunch of cats, and we can solve pretty much any problem that comes towards us within reason, I think. And I feel that there's always going to be bad actors in those things. There has been over the past 10,000 years, and there will be over the next 10,000 years. Mm-hmm. But I think in terms of what am I most excited about in technology, that area there fascinates me. The singularity and meshing human brains and being able to, like Neo does in the Matrix, inject kung fu into our minds in 30 seconds and then be a kung fu master.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff is possible in the next couple of decades, I believe. And
but then
exciting times, right?
But hopefully we don't have to have a body in a pod,
in a pod,
being fed nutrients.
Correct. And so you've got to balance that out as well with the how do we maintain a human connection out of all of this as well?
Exactly.
And how do we use technology just as a tool, because that's what we should always keep it as, just as a tool, whilst maintaining that we are this meat sack, whereas meat sack on this crazy rock flying through the universe. How do we still maintain that connection to this bag of bones that we got and still be humans in that mix as well?
Exactly.
And so I think it's the ethics, the morals, the debates around them are going to be endless for the next couple of decades. The technology and the use cases are going to be fascinating. I'm super excited for it. In the short term, though, I just love where the business world is in the technology space at the moment. The tools they've got available to them now are small businesses, to all of us as small businesses. It's just phenomenal compared to what it used to be back in 2002 or 2003 when I first started in the space.
Yeah, and especially with software as a service now. Where you've got it, everything's in the cloud, right or wrong, security. Yes, but the fact that I don't need to have a massive bank of servers in my office in order to do all of this great stuff. Whether it's just CRM or, like you said, line of business apps, those types of things, everything running in the cloud just makes it so much easier for a business to operate without a ton of capital having to invest to get all this equipment in order to do it.
Yeah. So we have got access to these supercomputers, these computers that have got infinite processing power to be able to do and create and build whatever the heck our minds can conceive in there instantly. And it's just crazy. The limiting thing at the moment is not the technology. The limiting thing is this gray, squishy, gooey stuff in between our ears.
But even from the small business perspective, right? Payment processing. I mean, look where that's gone just in the last 5 years or so.
Correct,
being able to have, as long as you have your mobile phone, you can swipe a card,
ding and bang, you're done.
Or touch, and you can now take money from customers and sell your wares. So I think that's great.
Correct.
In terms of technology, though, that you're worried about, what keeps you up at night besides the singularity and becoming self-aware?
See, I think it's all the same thing. So to me, it's not the technology that I worry about. It's the people behind the technology. Yeah. And because I don't, as I said, there's always bad actors in every sense of the word. In every space, there's always these bad actors. And I just worry about, we're obviously going to be getting access to some more powerful things as things go on. Things that have the ability to impact and change life as we know it. Yeah. And that to me, with two young kids growing up into this world as well, worries me about what potential we've got. However, you look back 50 years ago and our parents would have been having the same concerns and worries with us with nuclear power and nuclear crisis, right? And so we're going through that same thing as parents and as elders in this world at the moment in terms of that. And so that goes back to my thing of, I think it worries me to a degree about what potential is out there with all these technologies that are going on and whatnot, and also our reliance on technology that's becoming sometimes too far in the wrong direction. Yep. And just as a side note on that, what we're doing at the moment is we've got our kids in a school where at the moment there is no technology in their school. They're being taught to think critically outside of technology. And funny, coming from a tech geek, putting my kids into a school where they don't have access to technology.
That's like when I went to school. There's no technology.
Exactly right. But what I'm a big believer is that we don't know in 10, 15, 20 years time when my kids hit the workforce, what the world is going to be like. And so I don't want them to know how to wrangle technology now. I want them to know how to wrangle their minds now, and how to be creative and how to solve problems now. Any type of problem that comes at them, because in 20 years time, that's what they need to be doing, is solving problems, not learning how to use technology or not using technology, because technology then is going to be, we can't even fathom what it's going to be like. And so to me, it's enabling our youth nowadays to just be able to look at a problem and break it apart into pieces and use some critical thinking ability and some emotional intelligence to unpack those problems is what we should all be doing at the moment to enable them to be ready for whatever the heck is going to be there for them in that 10, 15, 20 years time.
Definitely, so that if they are presented with a rotary phone, they actually know how to turn the dial and then actually use it, right?
Exactly right. And if they don't, they can figure out how to solve that problem. That's
exactly. Yeah.
I just want them to have as many problem-solving skills as they possibly can. And to do that, we need to hit them with challenges, throw them with challenges, and not have it so that technology is the way that they solve every challenge out there. Yeah. Sure, it's useful to use it, but I think we've got to teach our youth and our kids how to solve stuff using their minds first, technology second.
Yep, definitely. So that brings us to our rapid fire round.
Ooh.
So this is really easy. 6 quick questions.
Nice.
Whatever first comes to mind. So first up, iOS or Android?
iOS.
Okay. Mac, Linux, or Windows?
Windows.
Amazon, Azure, Google, or something else for cloud services?
Azure.
Okay. Local backups, cloud, or both?
Both.
Okay. Should you always virtualize, yes or no?
Ooh, good question. No.
All right. And this is going to be interesting. Which is worse, printer support or vendor cold calls? You've already professed the love of printer support.
The printer support is worse.
Oh,
vendor cold calls.
But you said you love printer support.
Yeah, back when I was 21.
Oh, okay. Not so much
vendor
now.
cold calls, because there's relationship there each time, and you build a new relationship with new people. And I'm all about meeting and learning from new people and experiencing new relationships. So that's the better of the two by far.
Okay. Nigel, before we go, any other words of advice or anything out there for our community?
Oh, good question. Big question. What would be a parting tip? So being in my space, I get to talk to and see behind the scenes of an incredible amount of MSPs around the world. And what I see out there is so much untapped potential. And now as a coach, that's good because there's opportunity for me to be able to go and create that. But what I want everybody to believe is that in each and every one of you is this crazy limitless ability to go and do and be whatever you have. It's all governed by your belief in yourself. And so if you want to grow a bigger business, you want to create a bigger business, you want to have more impact in the world, don't go out looking for tools and technologies and all this kind of stuff to solve it. Go and focus and working on your mindset so that you believe that you can. Because you get that belief in place first and you will be unstoppable. And so that's my parting little bit of woo Tony Robbins rah in there for you to end up the thing, because there is, each of us, we limit ourselves like crazy. We've all got these limiting beliefs and these roadblocks that stop us from going out and creating even more awesome in the world. And I know, seeing behind the scenes of all these hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of MSPs around there, that I can see their potential in them, and I see it's far greater than what they currently believe themselves. And so my encouragement is, all of us, we should always be working on upgrading our beliefs around ourselves and what we can do and what we can create, because each and every one of us has got potential to do huge, enormous, amazing things out there.
Great, Nigel. That was awesome.
Great tip for having me.
It's been a real pleasure. So hopefully one of these days we'll get to meet in person. If you ever make it here, or I ever make it there, I'll definitely make sure to
come for a surf.
Yes. we don't surf much here in Florida, at least not on the West Coast. They do on the East Coast.
You gotta change that.
Here on the Gulf, it's too shallow. There's no waves. So.
Well, you got to move. Time to move house.
All right, great, Nigel. Have a great day, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Bye.
Bye.